I do have to start this call with an apology because last week I said that we were hoping for some good news on the injury front. And to start this week, we're talking about some very bad news on the injury front. So I tempted fate there. I apologise to you and all Gooners across the globe because we have to start by talking about the massive injury blow to Gabriel Magalhaes, who came off with a muscular injury to his thigh in Brazil's friendly against Senegal at the Emirates, of course. If it could happen anywhere in the world, and it happened at Arsenal's home, the Emirates Stadium. So right now, we're still waiting to hear of the official sort of severity, but we know that he's not playing in Brazil's friendly with Tunisia, and with any muscle injury, even the sort of the most minor grade ones, you're always thinking maybe, 2 or 3 weeks out recovery time. So there's immediately worry for the North London derby this weekend. And of course, this has happened just before Bayern Munich and Chelsea as well. First of all, Charles, are you fearful that Arsenal will be without Gabriel for all three of those massive games?
Well, you'd have to say yes, wouldn't you? That's not based on any information. That's just based on purely, like you said, sort of best case scenario when it comes to these sort of muscle injuries. Usually is, you know, 2 weeks, maybe three. And, Tottenham is coming a week after Gabriel got the injury while playing for Brazil. So you have to think it's very, very unlikely. In my mind, I'm already thinking about who's going to be playing instead of Gabriel for this weekend, and probably it will be the same for Bayern Munich and Chelsea. Hopefully, we get brilliant news from Mikel Arteta on Friday, and Gabriel's fine. He's been training, and it was just nothing. But looking at that, Brazil have released their statement confirming that their initial scan showed up an issue in the right thigh. And so you have to think it's incredibly, incredibly unlikely that we're going to see him for at least a couple of weeks. And that's going to rule him out of all three of those massive games that Arsenal have got coming up.
Yeah, I mean, even missing Gabriel for just one game is devastating, just because he is that important to Arsenal in both penalty areas. And it was interesting. Ancelotti, of course, he came out like straight away. He said sorry after the game. He apologized for it. But there were also reports that even before the game, he was training separately from the group. His load was being managed, and of course, there were, I think, obviously lots of online reactions saying that why was he risked for uh what some people call a pointless friendly match. If it was maybe if their World Cup chances were on the line, then maybe they could understand it. But it was just a friendly match, so lots of people saying, "What? Why did they do this?" Lots of anger towards Ancelotti and Brazil. Is that anger justified in your eyes?
No, no, not really. It's not qualified, but it's still a big, big game. There's about 4 games left before the World Cup. And, you ask Gabriel, do you want to play in that game? He's absolutely going to say yes. It wasn't like Gabriel was the only first team player who was playing in that Brazil game. He had everyone else was playing as well. It's a big, big game for them. It's a big game for Ancelotti. He's just arrived. He's not had many games with this squad, and he wants to see who he wants to be involved in the World Cup. So it was a big game. It was at the Emirates as well, his own stadium. There was no way Gabriel wasn't going to be playing in that game. So I don't really buy into that argument. I get it because it's incredibly frustrating. And if you're a fan of the club whose player has just got injured, you're of course going to be like, oh, why is he playing in a friendly, all that sort of stuff. You see it time and time again. But I never in my mind did I not expect Gabriel to play that game. He was front and center of all the advertising for it. He was always going to play. But I get the frustration. It's obviously incredibly, incredibly disappointing. I've seen the reports coming out from sort of journalists around the Brazil camp who suggested that he was training on his own on the Friday. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if Arsenal had been in contact with Brazil. Yeah, again, this is all questions that are going to be asked at Mikel at his press conference on Friday, I'm sure. But he was always going to play that game. And it's just incredibly unfortunate. It really, really is. It's ironic in a way. Normally you'd be sitting here saying, oh, it's because of all that jetting off halfway around the world to South America, playing all these games. But, he's not even left his home. He's been training at London Colney. He's playing at the Emirates, and he still does it. So it does come down to luck at times as well. It's just, I get the emotional reaction. It is incredibly frustrating and disappointing from an Arsenal fan's point of view. But he was always, always going to play in that game.
Yeah. think, like you said, he was always going to want to play in that game as well because there were inevitably going to be a smattering of Arsenal fans in the stadium as well he'd want to play in front of them. They'd want to see him play as well, obviously without getting injured, but that's happened now. It's in the past.
It is, but I mean, he's
And
always, he's only just really forced his way into the Brazil team as
mm,
well. It's not been that long since he was, sort of in and out the side. Wasn't sure if he was going to be a starter. He's only just kind of cemented his place in that team. He doesn't want to risk that ahead of the World Cup. So, his family was going to be there. Like you said, Arsenal fans were going to be there, and it was just a really, really important game, albeit not a threat, not a qualifier. It was still a very important game for his point of view, from Ancelotti's point of view, from Brazil point of view. So, it was always going to play.
yeah, I completely agree. It sort of feels quite weird that it's taken him so long to actually force his way into the squad. Of course, there are the likes of, I mean, Thiago Silva's a stalwart for so long, Marquinhos, Eder Militao as well. But I mean, Gabriel, I saw a graphic this morning actually, Arsenal's win percentage with and without him. I think with him, they win about 64% of their games, and without him, that drops to 40%. So it's just
Don't say that, man.
that is the reaction that I was expecting from him because, yeah, I mean, this is that obviously there is an argument that he is Arsenal's most important player for what he brings both in defence and attack. I mean, is this comparable to say Liverpool losing Van Dijk or Salah or Man City losing Erling Haaland?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is. I think. I was talking about this on one of my shows that I've done recently. That I think he's there in my mind as one of the two players that Arsenal could if you're going to protect two players between now and the end of the season, I think he's definitely one of the two from an Arsenal point of view. I'd probably say Martin Zubimendi's in that list as well, just because if he wasn't there, who do you play in place of him as number six? Do you have to move the whole midfield around, all that sort of stuff? But Gabriel, for his quality in both boxes, what he brings, his leadership now, he's a massive leader. He like William Saliba is obviously gets so many of the headlines and all that sort of stuff. But I genuinely think out of the two of them, Gabriel's been a better defender for at least a year and a half now. And I think Saliba he does freely admit that when you ask him yourself. He's the leader of that centre-back partnership. And as you said, at the other end, he's probably Arsenal's most important player in the other penalty area when it comes to set pieces because of the way he attacks it, because of the way he drags other defenders who are trying to mark him out the way, causes chaos. All the focus is on him, and that allows other players sometimes to get free. So it's just you can't play it down. I wish I could sit here right now and say it's not a big loss, but it's a massive loss in both boxes. The good thing is that Arsenal have fantastic options to replace him. The win percentage you were talking about there, obviously doesn't come from this season because this season he's played every game in the league and the Champions League. The two games he hasn't played, Arsenal have won those games as well in the League Cup. And it's because they've got so many options now, whereas before they probably didn't, and it was a big worry. Now you've got your pick of, it could be Calafiori, it could be Pierre Nkapie, it could be Christian Mosquera. You've got Ben White in the mix as well. Not that I think that will happen, but there's so many options. So as bad as it is, Arsenal's squad building in the last couple of years has put them in a position where hopefully, it's not going to be quite as bad as it potentially could have been.
Yeah, because those options, like you said, of course, when an Arsenal player gets injured right now, there's the immediate, oh God, it's happened again. Then there's the, oh, okay, we've got such a deep squad, we can cope with this. Unless, of course, right now it's a striker because Arsenal just seem to always lose strikers right now. But like you said, those options are, the left centre back there is, of course, you can play. I mean, Gabriel wasn't the only injury concern this month. There was Ricardo Calafiori who did pick up, I think there was a slight hip issue, but from reports that I've seen, he's going to be okay. He'll be fine for the derby. So he's an option there. You can play him and then play Lewis Skelly or Hincapie at left back, or of course play Hincapie centre back, keep Calafiori left back. Ben White, they mentioned Mosquera. You mentioned some people might even say Murian Timber. He can play everywhere on the back line as well. Who do you most want to see in the Gabriel role while he's injured?
You know what? I can't give you a definitive answer to that because I don't know. I've been going over it in my head ever since the injury. I think I would probably go with Mosquera. I think at this point, I don't think I'd want to move Calafiori in there just because then you're sort of shaking the defence up twice because then you're going to have to, not only not have Gabriel at centre back, you're not going to have Calafiori at left back. So you're kind of hurting yourself twice doing that. So I'd keep Calafiori where he's been so good this season at left back. And, Mosquera's just not put a foot wrong, basically, since he signed for Arsenal. He's looked so strong. Yes, he's more predominantly right-sided centre-back, but he's played left-sided centre-back many times before. He's done it for Spain. under 21s. He's done it for Valencia. He's done it for Arsenal on a couple of occasions as well. And I just think he's up to speed. He knows exactly what it's about. Like I said, he's not put a foot wrong. I think he's kind of earned that place. So I would go for him. If it was a month down the line and Hincapié had played more, then maybe I would be going Hincapié. But I think for now, probably Mosquera. Hincapié is not even playing until overnight tonight as well in New York, in New Jersey. So he's going to have that as well. He's not going to get back till probably Thursday. He's going to have a lot of air miles in his legs. Maybe that will come into consideration when it comes to Arteta. So I think I would probably go at this stage Mosquera and keep Calafiori at left back.
Interesting, yeah. I think a lot of Arsenal fans thought straight away, okay, we've got Hincapié, he can play there. I think he would be first choice for a lot of Arsenal fans, and Arteta has talked him up so much over the past few weeks. But you'd go Mosquera because Hincapié has just not got that sort of that rhythm with Arsenal yet.
I would go for that. I wouldn't be surprised if Mikel goes with Hincapié, though. I think I would go for Mosquera, but like you said, Mikel's really bigged up Hincapié every time he's talked about his mentality. They call him a warrior, all that sort of stuff. So it wouldn't shock me if it is Hincapié who plays there. But I think if it was my decision, thankfully it's not. But if it was my decision, I think I would probably go Mosquera.